Greetings and salutations, and welcome to the 2026 Horror Games, where we'll be breaking down some of the best face-offs, the biggest upsets, and even some lukewarm takes on what's next for our surviving tributes. I'm your host and representative for the Slasher District in this year's games, Chris, and with us we have the Monster Madness game maker herself, Chell.
The whole world is watching, you better put on a show.
This round asked a very different question from our previous rounds. In round 4, citizens had to decide which tribute offers the most creative kills, the most imaginative displays of violence ever put to screen. That's right, it wasn't about strength, it wasn't about survival, it wasn't about legacy. It was just your imagination. Which killers think outside the box? Who turns a moment into a spectacle? And who leaves behind something we can't stop thinking about long after the credits roll? 8 tributes entered this round, each with their own signature style. Only 4 can move forward. The Fearsome Four. Chell, what can you tell us about this 4th round of play?
This is probably one of the most important rounds in this year's horror games because not only do we exit the safety of the districts, but we have also identified the 4 tributes who are considered the tippity top of their district, and they have been chosen to go out into the unfamiliar, to fight in the Fearsome Four.
And let it not go unsaid that the propaganda that is circulating the districts is a little outrageous. I think at this point, our dear patron Meat, our citizen of the district, I thought, might actually be a propaganda machine.
Some call it propaganda, some call it discourse, but amongst our citizens in the district, it is absolutely simmering with excitement, as you could say. Sides have been chosen, and the fans have decided their selected tribute. They are going to live and die by those tributes, and as we get closer and closer to the final round, we will be mourning more than a few people and more blood on our hands than I think we expected.
They're really dropping like flies, which is deeply concerning. But let's go ahead and get into some of the key matchups from this past round. Now, obviously, we considered in each pairing who had a greater flair for bloodshed.
The old razzle-dazzle, as they used to say in the old days.
And when you look at this, I thought that this would be really the easiest matchup of the entire games because we had the newcomer, the returning star Amityville House versus Frankenstein's monster. Now, again, let's be clear, most creative kills, the house ain't kill nobody. Technically, allegedly possessed, if you believe in the hoax. Okay, sure. But nobody dies in that movie from the house specifically. It was a human.
Yes. And that turmoil is very clear in how this matchup took place. This was our closest battle, if you can believe it. In the classics, which has seen quite a bit of bloodshed and some shockers, rounded out interdistrict play with just one more with Amityville House, as you said, losing to Frankenstein's monster, who has never himself been accused of being a creative killer.
Has never, but I do want to cite a proclamation from District 1. This came from Sean himself. Let's keep in mind that Frankenstein's monster has a track record for literally tearing the house down across multiple films. He destroys the laboratory, the bride, and himself in The Bride of Frankenstein. He wrecks Dr. Edelman's lab in House of Dracula. He destroys a tower room in The Bride from the 80s. He burns down a cabin in the 90s. Even the fucking ground collapsed when battling Baragon in the 60s, proving that he has the potential to destroy even the very foundation the Amityville House is built upon.
And that just goes to show that even someone that we often think is a gentle giant or lacking the bandwidth for such creativity clearly has a way to still make a statement with his kills and his destruction.
But we also had an interesting matchup over in District 2.
Yes, this was the one that we were keeping our eyes on, and much to our shock, I thought this would be much closer. But Jennifer Check, that scorned high school girl, really showed her teeth. And let me tell you, Pinhead simply had nothing to offer in the battle against Jennifer.
And the people have really spoken for Jennifer because even Spooky Bitch in District 2 shared new conspiracy theory I'm going to now peddle. Every person who goes up against Jennifer Check is a capital plant. Hashtag change my mind. They're trying to take down our Mockingjay. Don't let them.
The thought that someone like Jennifer Check could possibly stand as a symbol of anything other than the violence and hate that she has forced upon many of her victims. I think it's silly.
It is silly. And the response to this came from a citizen of District 3 who responded to this slander and said, Jenny will have more to fear than the Capitol when she faces a mother's wrath, and then posted a gif of the alien queen, who was, of course, up in her own matchup in District 3. So, Chell, how did that matchup go?
That was another one that we genuinely thought would come to closer blows, but clearly the Thing's ability to shapeshift, to adapt in such a way to kill his victims, it far outweighed anything that the alien queen, the chestburster herself, could offer.
Listen, when you think of a alien, we think of a xenomorph. A xenomorph can only do so many things, but the Thing can be anything. And I admire the potential, and that is not Chris Rojas falling in love with potential, just to be clear. Now, another matchup that got a lot of attention came in my home district, District 4, Art the Clown versus Jason Voorhees.
These two have certainly been circling each other for multiple games and multiple rounds, past and present, and both of them clearly were meant to match up during this very round of creativity. Do we call it an upset that Art the Clown, the newcomer, overpowered Jason Voorhees, who barely made it further last year's? It seems like Jason Voorhees is simply going to be someone that maybe we never see him taking the crown.
I was so excited for this matchup, and the people of District 4 were torn. I don't know why. Most creative? Come on. Chewbacca, our slashing J, shared, it's a tough one, but I think Art takes it. Jason has the liquid nitrogen kill, agreed. The sleeping bag kill, agreed. But most everything else is just chop. Art, though, chainsaw enema, the bedroom scene, the rats. And then Matt follows up to share liquid nitrogen, sleeping bag part 7, sleeping bag in 10, sleeping bag in 2009. Okay, so we're getting a lot of copy paste, Matt. Let's be real. Punching Julius's head off, Cornfield Rain Massacre from Freddy vs. Jason, and some others I can go on about. But when I reinforced that it was most creative, he said, Art's got some great kills, but the only thing really special about them is pure brutality. The liquid nitrogen kill, though, fucking iconic, to the point where even his opponent ripped off that bit. Dawn getting cut in half the long way. Evil Dead 2013 did a hot dog cut. Chainsaw Enema is just a really gratuitous version of chopping people up. And the rats thing wasn't even the actual kill. That shit just ended in a throat slit. Bill Goldberg blew up a couple kids in 2003. Allie's kill was also so ridiculous and gratuitous that it took me out of the movie. And also, if it wasn't for what Tom Savini did in the prime of the slasher genre, we wouldn't have Art the Clown at all, since he was a huge influence on Damien Leone. But Drew followed up by pointing out that the Evil Dead thing was a hand, which I agree with. I think there's still no circumstance in which you look at Art the Clown's resume compared against Jason's. Jason has the number, but Art has the innovation. And yes, we give it to Tom Savini for his effects, but there's absolutely no world in which Jason Voorhees is more creative than Art the Clown.
Well, and as we always say, these games are for the people, and the people decided. They have decided that the creativity of the new age of Art the Clown far outweighs the creative value of one Jason Voorhees, who has a proclivity for liquid nitrogen and sleeping bags.
I do want to point out that Art the Clown does probably joyfully sit on the shoulders of Jason Voorhees. I'm sure he would be inclusive of that.
And that is why we have the games, because we love to see those legacies and how someone like Art the Clown can carry it forward into the Fearsome Four, perhaps into the final 2. We'll find out.
Now, before we turn to round 5 and all the blood that is yet to be shed, we owe it to the fallen to say their names. Let's give them back one more time. Pour one out for the homies.
In District 1, Amityville House.
In District 2, Pinhead.
In District 3, Alien Queen.
In District 4, Jason motherfucking Voorhees. Remember, evil never dies. It just changes shape and then probably gets resurrected with lightning. Now, as we exit intra-district play and our remaining tributes are forced to face foes from other districts, we're going to test their ability to adapt, to evolve, and to overcome.
What we want to see from our tributes is that they're able to thrive in any conditions, including those most unfamiliar to them. For this round, voters will have to decide which tribute is more likely to succeed in their opponent's district.
Okay, so this is basically taking home field advantage and turning it on its head in a complete 180.
Absolutely. We challenge our voters to consider the questions of how will Frankenstein's monster fare in the paranormal district? Can Jennifer Check hold her own and be victorious in the classic horror district?
I think that's a great question. I also want to point out, for anyone who just needs some initial research, Frankenstein did meet the space monster in 1965. Now, whether he met them on Earth or met them in space, I'm not sure.
There's always the challenge of Jennifer Check. She had the power of paranormal behind her. But when she's faced with those of classic horror, the ones who came before and have all of this knowledge, will she still be able to take her new age understanding and wield it as a weapon?
What is Jennifer Check if not a succubus? And succubus have been around for eons. So, I have faith. Now, an interesting matchup is in fact going to be Art the Clown in space. It writes itself. If Terrifier 4 isn't in space, what are we even doing?
Certainly something to think about. We just talked about Art sitting upon the shoulders of Jason Voorhees, who himself had gone to space with one of, again, his most creative kills. So if his success potentially in the sci-fi district doesn't lead towards Art the Clown in space, then surely nothing else would.
But do you think The Thing could do well in the slasher district? I do think that there's at least this The Thing can adapt to genuinely anything. Although, actually, what is The Thing's weakness?
The Thing's weakness is fire. It's
Yeah, and the price of admission in any slasher is fire. So, actually, if we look at Scream 7, if we look at Freddy vs. Jason, if we look at Halloween Kills, if we look at just about any major slasher franchise, I dare say The Thing is literally cooked.
The Thing, though, I think has some of the skills of a slasher. Because all of our slashers, our beloved slashers, they creep, they move in silence. And what does The Thing do but simply move in silence, almost in a way that they're able to embody those unsuspecting? Who moves better in silence than someone you don't even know is The Thing?
Is among you. Yeah. But I see it panning out this way. The Thing goes to a slasher district, perhaps even transforms into a slasher, maybe. And then you think, oh, wow, the jig is up. We're going to get killed. All of a sudden, one person sets the house on fire. All of a sudden, this alien's dead. Where a slasher would stand tall, The Thing burns to the ground.
I think the thing we need to be more worried about is that the art we send soaring to the skies, will that be the same art that returns to Earth?
That's a great question. Indeed. He can apparently be reborn, but would he still be the same? Now, these questions and so many more are begging to be answered by you, dear citizens of our district and of Hacker Slash. So please give us your predictions, weigh in, give us your opinions. You can follow the link in this episode's description where you can leave a voicemail. And if you don't want to leave a voicemail, just comment on any of our social media platforms because we're dying to know what you think. We completed our 4th round of play now in the 2026 Monster Madness Arena, but round 5 promises to have a lot of blood left to be shed.
As we bid farewell to the fallen tribute who have left the games once again honorably, I don't want to say too soon at this point because they have had a noble run. We look to another new day and the next round of play. The voting will begin on Sunday, March 22nd, and will end Wednesday, March 25th. And from there, we will have the final 2 emerge, who will duke it out for the championship by the end of March.
We are simmering with anticipation to see who advances from the Fearsome Four. But for now, may the scares be ever in your favor.